In 2013, the Philadelphia 76ers were about to do something that no NBA team had ever done before. They were intentionally going to lose and embrace failure as a strategy. This was a wildly bold yet controversial take that would change the way that basketball fans think about rebuilding a franchise even today. This is the story of Sam Hinkie and the beginning of the process. Before joining the 76ers, Sam Hinkie worked in various front office roles, most notably with the Houston Rockets, where he became known for using data and advanced metrics to evaluate players and team-building strategies. Philadelphia hired him on in 2013 because they wanted a forward-thinking general manager willing to take the bold, unconventional steps to rebuild a struggling team. Hinkie's reputation for innovative, analytical-driven decision-making fit that vision perfectly.
Come overnight. That's not a surprise. That doesn't make me not Dr. Doom to say that won't come overnight. We need to keep focused on that, and I'll keep the pedal to the metal.
Hinkie inherited a team that had a few bright spots on the roster, such as Drew Holiday, Andrew Bynum, Kwame Brown, Evan Turner, Nick Young. But the Sixers had finished that most recent season at number 9 in the rankings. They had just barely missed the playoffs. They weren't interested in just patching a mediocre roster. Hinkie had different ideas. Tear everything down. Stockpile draft picks. Bet on the future. What followed was one of the most infamous rebuilds in sports history. It's important to note that nothing like this had happened prior to 2013 in the Sixers with the process. Nowadays, this is pretty commonplace. We just saw Oklahoma City do this exact same thing to their roster, and not just build a championship contender, but actually build the championship roster. For those that are unfamiliar with what the process is, this was Hinkie's philosophy. Forget about short-term wins. Forget about the embarrassment of losing. Instead, you focus on assets, draft picks, young players, and cap flexibility. Fans called this
trusting the process.
In other words, the team would lose, but they had a plan. And the NBA, fans, players, and analysts just weren't ready for it. Let's talk about draft night 2013. Hinkie's first major move started with Drew Holiday. They traded Drew, who at the time was a young aspiring all-star point guard, to the New Orleans Pelicans. In return, Philadelphia received Nerlens Noel. He was the 6th overall pick, but also had a serious knee injury, so he would not play that season. They also received a future first-round pick. This trade in and of itself perfectly encapsulates Hinkie's mindset. Bet on the potential, not the present. We're trading a proven star for an injured potential superstar rookie in Nerlens Noel. Later that draft, the Sixers also selected Michael Carter-Williams at the 11th overall pick. Michael Carter-Williams would go on to win Rookie of the Year. However, we'll talk about that in a little bit. By the end of that first draft night, the Sixers roster was barely recognizable. They had a mix of prospects, injured players, and completely unproven talent. Other moves that the Sixers would make that night include taking the 35th pick Glenn Rice Jr. and trading that to the Wizards in exchange for Nate Walters and Arsalan Kazemi. The Philadelphia 76ers would then trade Nate Walters to the Bucks in exchange for the 43rd pick, Ricky Leto, and a future second-round draft pick. The 76ers would then trade the 43rd pick, which was Ricky Leto, to the Dallas Mavericks in exchange for the 2014 second-round pick. The 2013-2014 season was brutal. They would finish this season going 19-63, losing more than 75% of their games. Fans were frustrated, but Hinkie remained committed. Trust the process. Every loss was another step toward acquiring a top lottery pick, which would mean another chance to draft a potential superstar. Think about the future. It was during this period of time that the phrase "trust the process" began to take hold amongst the fans. It was a strategic investment in the future. Then came the 2014 draft. This would be the moment that the process would truly make its mark. With the 3rd overall pick, Hinkie selects, out of Kansas University, Joel Embiid, a 7-foot center from Cameroon, who has serious questions about his health as he is currently nurturing a major foot injury. Many experts and analysts would call this a gamble, too risky of a move, a reach. But not Sam Hinkie. He saw potential, and potential was the currency of the process. On top of picking Joel Embiid early, later in the first round, he would also select Dario Saric, a skilled forward from Europe, knowing that likely Dario would not come to the NBA for a few years. Yet again, Hinkie is prioritizing the long-term upside over immediate contribution. The Sixers weren't building a team for 2014. They were building a team for years down the line. This season was yet another awful season for the Sixers. However, if you do look down the roster, you can start to see some names that would go on to contribute in the NBA. Robert Covington, Joel Embiid, Jeremy Grant, Nerlens Noel, Michael Carter-Williams. This is really the first season that you're seeing the process having left a stamp on modern-day NBA.
That's completely set, and then we just wait. There's a lot of time and a lot of work to be done, and I'm a big believer you might find better answers if you spend time at it.
Fine-tuning your feelings about guys. In other words, you know what they are as players from on the court.
Next time you join us, we're going to be discussing the end of Hinkie's reign, what became of the process, and also moving into the Brian Colangelo and Elton Brand era of the 76ers. If you enjoyed this video, please comment, please share, and potentially subscribe if you want to get that notification next time that we drop the next part of dissecting the process. This was the Dynasty Blueprint, where we break down legacies one team at a time. Have a nice day.